Hey everyone, in this video we're going to keep going with our Ritchie's Fabulae Faciles, right, the Perseus story. And we're going to look at part 4. So this part is called Perseus Gets His Outfit. So if you remember in the first 3 parts we learned about Perseus, his sort of birth, his mother, his father, and how they get him and his mother get thrown into the sea to try to be killed. And in the last chapter, or the last 2 really, we learn that they're saved by King Polydectes. And Polydectes wants to marry Perseus' mom. And so to get rid of Perseus, to get him out of the house basically, he sends him on an adventure, right, to kill Medusa, get me the head of Medusa. That was the last thing he was told to do. So whenever you have a story like this in Greek mythology, right, the hero oftentimes needs to get something special, right? They're all carrying special armor or outfits or weapons, something, right? And if he's going to go kill one of the Gorgons, Medusa, he needs to have something on his side. That's what this chapter is about. It's sort of Perseus gearing up and getting ready to go fight Medusa, and you're going to see the special outfit, basically the special weapons and armor that he gets in order to do this. So to start, right, our first line in part 4, we have Perseus ubi haec audivet ex insula discessit, et postquam ad continentem venet Medusam quae sivet. So in this one, we're starting, right, we just had, Polydectes just told him, go out and earn glory, son, right, you got to get out of the house. So it says Perseus, when he heard these things, haec is our substantive adjective, right, it's neuter plural, it means these, technically. And you're implying these things, right? So when he heard, perfect tense, when he heard these things, right, he departed, discessit. So he left ex insula. He left, away from the island or out of the island. He departed from the island is probably the best way you could parse this, right? And you have postquam, after Wainit, he came ad continentem. Continentem means like kind of back to the land, right? The mainland, it might be one way to think about it. So when he came to the mainland, the continent, right, really, he quae sivet, he was looking for, or he searched for Medusa, right? Medusam is your direct object. So he departs. He goes to the land of Medusa, right? He leaves and now he's looking for her, right? Because he's trying to kill her. Then it continues, and you have diu frustra quaerebat, namque naturam loci ignorabat. So diu means for a long time. So for a long time, quaerebat, it's imperfect tense. It means he was searching, right? He was looking for her is kind of one way to put it, right? But frustra, in vain, right? Think of the word frustrate when you see frustra. So he was looking for her in vain. Why? Because, right, namque here, we have for, he was ignorant, ignorabat, literally he didn't know is kind of one way to put it, or he was ignorant, or he didn't know rather, the naturam loci, the nature of the place. The natura means the nature. Loci is gender singular, of the place. It means he doesn't know where he is, right? He just got sent to find Medusa. He doesn't know this land. He doesn't know the nature of the land. So he's not really sure where he's supposed to be looking, right? So he's on this journey. He's trying to find her. And he just doesn't know where he's supposed to be. Then it continues. You have Tandem Apollo et Minerva. Viam demonstraverunt, rather. So luckily for him, finally, Tandem, or at last, Apollo and Minerva, right? So the god Apollo and the goddess Minerva, right? And again, you're reading the Latin version of this story. So in the Greek version, the real version, she wouldn't be called Minerva, she'd be called Athena, right? That's who's helping him here. So Apollo and Athena, you could say, demonstraverunt. They showed, perfect tense, literally demonstrated, pointed out, showed the viam, the way, the road, right? The path. So finally, these 2 gods, this god and goddess, come down and they show him where he's supposed to be going. So he gets a little divine help, which all heroes do, right? Then it keeps going. You have primum ad graias, sorores Medusae pervenit, right? So first, or at first, primum, right? He came to the graias, right? These are these mythological creatures, basically, right? The graias. And these Graii, they're the sisters, the sorores Medusae, the sisters of Medusa. So basically, you have 2 sets of people here. Excuse me. You have the Gorgons, which is what Medusa is, and then you have the Graii. In Greek mythology, they're sisters of each other, right? It's kind of 2 sets of sisters. Okay, 3 each, of course, right? 3 is sort of that special number. So they're not necessarily Gorgons like Medusa, but they're related to her is the idea. So first, that's who he finds, right? He finds the Graii. And they're often called like kind of the gray witches or the gray women. They're supposedly these old women who have been aged kind of from birth, and they share one eye and one tooth, right? So they've got this idea of being like gray old women, right? And they're going to be who Perseus gets information from is the idea. So he doesn't find Medusa first. He finds these sisters related to her, right? And then you have abhis, talaria et galeam magicam acape. So from them, abhis, right? We have ablative here. He accepted, acape, meaning Perseus accepted, talaria et galeam magicam. So what are talaria? Talaria are these winged sandals. You actually see a picture of it here. So you get special footwear, basically, right? And the winged sandals, you want to think of like the god Hermes, right? Or Mercury in Latin. It lets you fly, right? So if he's going to fight Medusa, he needs some sweet gear here, right? And the first kind of hero level item he gets are talaria. He gets winged sandals. So that kind of gives him an advantage. The galeam is really a helmet, right? And it's not the helmet pictured here. I just gave you a kind of a traditional Greek helmet, but he gets a magic helmet, right? So again, the translation here is he accepted from them talaria, the winged sandals, and a magic helmet. The helmet kind of makes him invisible, right? It's kind of the idea. They can't see him when he puts it on. So he needs this hero gear in order to fight Medusa. Okay, so the trick is Medusa turns you to stone if you see her. So the sandals will help him, right? He can kind of zip around, fly around. And the magic helmet will also help him. You're going to see how it plays out later in the story, but it basically makes him invisible. So he gets part of his gear from the Graii, right? The sisters of Medusa, right? They're related to her. Then you have Apollo autem et Minerva, falcum et speculum ei dederant. Right? So on top of this, Apollo and Minerva, right? Apollo and Athena, they gave a to him. Remember, dederant, give, dodare takes a dative, right? You give to someone. So they gave to him, a, meaning they gave to Perseus, a falcem, right? It's like a sickle or a knife, basically, and a speculum and a mirror. So the knife makes sense, the falcem, the sickle, right? Because he's trying to kill Medusa. He needs a weapon, right? Something to kill her with. But they hand him a mirror, and this is where it gets interesting. You might be thinking, why would you ever hand him a mirror? How's this going to play out? You're going to see as we go through the story, right? You're going to see how he uses both of these to kill Medusa. But again, from the Graii, he gets winged sandals and a helmet. From Apollo and Minerva, he gets a special sickle and this mirror, right? All of these things are going to help him to kill Medusa. So now he's finally kind of geared up and he's ready to go. He's got his sweet hero gear. He knows where he's going. And now he's off to kind of do what he needs to do. So now that he's ready, it says, tum postquam talaria pedibus induit in ira ascendit. So then, right, after induit, he put on the talaria, right? He put him onto his feet, his pedibus, right? So he puts on the winged sandals onto his feet. Right? Induere means to put on. It's usually used with clothing in these stories, right? But, sandals, same idea. So after he puts on the sandals, in Ira ascended, he ascended, right? Ascended, he climbed up or ascended into the air. In Ira, he can fly, right? Imagine what an advantage he has over everyone else who tried to kill Medusa, right? He can fly because he's special, because he's a demigod, right? So now that he's flying and he has all his special gear, he's off to find Medusa. Right? So you have diu per iro volaba, tandem tamen, ad eum locum venet ubi Medusa cum ceteris gorgonibus habitaba. Okay? So for a long time, diu, he was flying, volaba, per ira, through the air. So for a long time, he's flying through the air. Right? Finally, however, so tandem tamen, right? Finally, however, he came, venet, ad eum locum, to that place, right? He came to that place, ubi, where Medusa habitaba, where Medusa was living, cum ceteris gorgonibus, with the other Gorgons, right? Her sisters, okay? So he finds Medusa finally because he's flying around, right? Gives him an advantage. Then you have Gorgones autem monstra erant specie horribili, capita enim earum anguibus omnino contecta erant. So we have the Gorgons, right? The Gorgones, however, they were monsters, monstra erant, right? They were monsters. And then we have this phrase, specie horribili. So these words are both ablative. So what you're looking at here is something called the ablative of quality, okay? Because it's describing who they are, right? So horribili here is an I stem, right? It's a third declension I stem. Specie is just fifth declension, but they're both ablative. So they're monsters. You could almost say they're monsters of horrible appearance or with horrible appearance is kind of what you could say here. But either way, it's trying to say that they're really like scary looking. And it's getting at their quality, which is why it's ablative. So why are they of such horrible appearance, right? Well, it describes in the next line. They have capita, their heads, literally capita earum, the heads of them, their heads. Contecta erant. So contecta is going with capita, right? They're both neuter plural. So their heads were covered, right? This is the pluperfect passive, right? of the verb to cover. So they were covered with what? anguibus, with snakes, right? So their heads were covered with snakes. Omnino here is going to mean entirely or wholly, some version of that. So they were completely covered with snakes. So that's why when you see images of Medusa or her sisters, the Gorgons, they always have those like snake heads. Usually it's depicted as their hair being snakes or snakes kind of wound into their hair, whatever you want to think about it. But they're supposed to be really scary, right? This horrible appearance because they have snake heads. Okay, so this is who he finds, right? So he finally runs into the Gorgons. And on top of that, their manus, their hands also, right? Or even, you might say, etiam, even their hands, facti erant. Facti is describing manus, right? Feminine word. Their hands were made ex ire, of bronze. Okay, so on top of the fact that they have snakes in their hair, right, and Medusa can turn you to stone, we're going to see they have these bronze hands. So again, these monsters, right, these Gorgons as they're described here, or monsters as they're described rather, they have special qualities too, which is why they're not really able to be killed by normal people. Okay, they have the bronze hands, they have the snakes in their hair. They're really terrifying is the idea. This is why Perseus needed to gear up and get some special hero gear so he can actually fight them. That's the idea, okay? So we get a nice description of the Gorgons. Again, I'd encourage you to go look these up. If you've never heard of them or never seen them, there's a bunch of different images you can pull. They're all really good. So take a look, right? But it's just describing Medusa and her sisters, and now we've reached the point where you're going to have this confrontation, right? Because Perseus has finally got his special gear, and he's finally found where Medusa and his sisters are.